First thing I would tell you is thank you for being here. I'm from a little small country town, about 1,000 people. There's probably more people in the entire UC than where I grew up. My parents were divorced when I was 6 months old, and my grandfather raised me. My parents are good people. It was just too young, like a lot of other people, just bad decisions. They're really good people. But my grandfather raised me. My grandfather quit school when he was in 5th grade, like many of your grandfathers did. Just trying to do anything that he could to help his family. And so, you know, he would pick cotton, pick green beans, haul hay, bale hay, do anything that he could. Never learned to read, never learned to write, never learned arithmetic. So as a kid, when I was growing up, he couldn't help me as it would relate to academic work. So what he would do was, I would come home and he would make me read out loud to him. He'd give me a quarter for every 30 minutes that I would read to him. I didn't realize that he couldn't read. I thought he was trying to help me read. Never had a job like a lot of your grandfathers. Do anything that he could to make a dollar. But all that he would try to do is he would use coins and he would use dollars to teach me how to add, teach me how to subtract, teach me how to multiply, teach me how to divide. I didn't know that when he was trying to, in essence, make me do it, that I was teaching him. So as I grew up, when we would go to the breakfast diner to eat, or when we go out to dinner, I didn't know that he couldn't read the menu. So he'd always just say, I'll have whatever Lane's having. That's my middle name. I just thought, well, I guess that's what he wants. As I got older, as I became your children's ages, I realized that he didn't know how to read. Couldn't read a street sign, didn't know what an exit sign was, would go to the bank, make a deposit, couldn't fill out a deposit slip. He had made it just fine. Relative to his life, he was successful. I didn't know anything different until I got older. And Molly just told me 5 minutes ago that this was supposed to, it was called, what was it called, Molly? Beyond Boards. What was it?
Beyond the Boards with Buds for Family Weekend.
So I'll let the videos and Mike and all of the pomp and the circumstance and all Mary's girls and guys, they'll do a great job of explaining to you what happens when we play at the Bradley Center. What I want to tell you in the next 12 minutes is what your children are going to experience at Marquette. I just told you just a little bit about where I'm from and about what I did. I had no idea that I worked at 7 different Division I institutions in every position. That's why they rattled off all of my staff members' names. Because no matter what position they are, they're all really, really, really important to what we do. And as I progressed in the business, sometimes I worked at schools that people knew about. Sometimes I worked at schools that nobody came to the games. Never worked at a place for a long, long period of time before the game was ever on TV. Didn't even know that it was possible to take a plane to play an out-of-town game. Who would spend money to get on a plane for all those coaches and all those players to go play one game? What school would spend that kind of money? Never even knew that there was such a thing as a charter plane. Like where you just rent the plane and the only people on the plane are the people that they just introduced. Who would spend that kind of money to go play one game? Never even knew that kind of world existed. Had no idea. 7 different institutions. Got the job here as an assistant coach July the 9th. July the 9th, 2 years ago. And what had happened 2 days before that was on ESPN and Fox Sports and everything else. They had said, Buzz Williams commits career suicide. Commits career suicide. I had quit as a Division I head coach. I was 33 years old when I got my first Division I head coaching job. And that's what it said 2 days before I was hired as an assistant at Marquette. And then fast forward in my life, 7.5 months later, and I was hired as the head coach. And then they said on ESPN and Fox Sports and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, who is Buzz? And then fast forward 9 more months, and now they want to show all those pictures where I'm acting a fool, clapping my hands. We won all the games. Oh, Buzz is a great coach. Here's the real deal. Here's the real deal. I'm not any different than what I ever was. That's the real deal. And here's the thing that I want you to understand about your children. Those players over there, they're not treated any different by me or by anybody that teaches in this school than your children. The expectation level of those kids, they may look a little different than your children. The expectation level of those guys is no different than your children. Because those players are students before they're players. And before they're students, they're somebody's children just like your children are next to you. And so just because they're players, that doesn't mean that they're allowed to do anything or should have any expectations any different. And I'll go one step further, and I only got about 8 minutes left. I'm not any different than the professors that are teaching your children. I'm not any different than the deans. I'm not any different than Mary Larkin. I'm not any different than the people that put this together. I'm not any different than any of those assistant coaches that they call out their name. But what happens in the world we live in is everybody thinks, oh, look at this guy. He's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. I had no idea. I had zero inclination. Couldn't have dreamed a dream that would take me from a small country town to a place millions and millions and millions of miles away that I had never been to, that I didn't know anything about. I didn't know that God let it snow. I didn't know that, I knew God was big, but I didn't even know that world existed. And I sure didn't know that the world that existed, that in the time that I have been here, all that has transpired in my family's life would have taken place. Only a God as big as our God could have even imagined things like that. And so what we talk about every day, and our players will tell you, we were a little late getting here because they wanted to watch me run today, so it took a little bit longer. They decided they didn't want to run, they wanted to see me run, so I'm a little slower than they are.